very different attitude to all this.
I mean, you know, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah. Gutenberg
makes me happy.
Right. So, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, folks, to our regular monthly workshop with Spencer Foreman, where we talk about marketing automation, e-commerce, or anything else that has entered Spencer's radar that he feels would be useful to our beloved tribe at the WP-Tonic. Today, I've been really looking forward to this. I always like Spencer's workshops. He's a fantastic trainer, has a track record of being, I think you've trained thousands of people in WordPress, haven't you, over the years? So
I try to keep track, and honestly, it's hard to really get a number on it, but based upon the various things I've participated in, it's been 15 plus years. It's more than one and less than 1 million.
It's quite substantial, put it that way. So I've really been looking forward to this particular one because he's had a conversion on the road to Damascus,
right?
That are rather unpleasant towards Gutenberg, but suddenly through this conversion, he has seen the light. He has seen Gutenberg. So he's going to be talking about that and showing us why he has converted to the light. So over to you, Spencer.
Right. And in all fairness, today's workshop is really, I'm getting myself set up to share the screen here. Today's workshop is set up on the notion that we have to come to terms, to be realistic, about Gutenberg, the block editor, having reached a level of maturity where it is far from perfect and far from done, but it now becomes a compelling choice for what I'll call a Gutenberg first solution. And there's a multitude of reasons why this is compelling, even if you're an expert or really fond of other page builders. For example, up till this point, I was the staunchest advocate of using Elementor as your primary page builder, even if you're using Elementor free. And many of the things that we built at the time for launch flows, or that I taught through all the various things that I've been involved with, were the notion of, sure, there's 7 or 8 other page builders, but if you use Elementor free, all these things will inure to your benefit, you know, not the least of which is the energy and the time and the other people making stuff for it, but just because it gives you a simpler stack. Gutenberg was always this annoying thing that was taking away the stability of the classic editor and just like a bumblebee at a picnic, not really doing you anything. Now I can say that Gutenberg, along with a few things we're going to talk about today, have made it possible to shift your focus. And I think this is now the best opportunity to do it because you will end up doing it. That's my prediction. You're going to do this at some point anyway. Better to do it now and just ease into it. Take a few light lumps today.
Can I say something quickly?
Of course.
I agree with you, actually, but it's just slightly different. Big surprise, isn't it? And the Divi people aren't going to like this, but maybe also including Divi. I really only see oxygen. I used the pun, oxygen. I didn't mean to do that.
Do not mean oxygen.
I only see the oxygen in the room that can support Gutenberg and Elementor. Maybe Divi, because Divi's not going to go. It's a totally world that I don't know much about, but it's there. But in my radar, I can only see there really only being 2 players in this, Gutenberg and Elementor, and all the rest will slowly die.
I think it's going to shift the focus. So here's the thing. There was a time when you would choose from a cell phone, and there was 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 brands, all had different shapes, different sizes, different features. Smartphones, flip phones, Nokia phones, you know, Hershey bar phones, Trios, Blackberries. Now everything looks like this, right? And the reason is people shifted their focus from the features of the design of the phone, which, you know, kind of still happen with the camera, but like, who cares? iPhone 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they're all basically doing the same thing.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I actually see it in the operating terms. There is that now only 2 operating systems. there are other ones, but there's either the iPhone operating system and there's Android.
True. It'd be the same thing there.
And that's what I see happening in WordPress. There's going to be Gutenberg and Elementor.
I will expand and say I'm on the same page, but let me say I see it like this. Right now, the reason that there was a market for page builders was because the metaphor of building or acquiring custom bespoken themes and then trying to get plugins to work with them and then making the features both look good and act properly was solved initially, not by the customizer, which had promised that, but instead by putting in page builders. And Divi led the way with that. And Divi is not going to go away because Divi has such a humongous audience and it's so built in, millions and millions and millions. I would agree with your statement if you said it'll be Gutenberg, Elementor, and Divi.
Yeah.
There's a leftover of Beaver Builder, maybe. And then there's a whole stream of legacy stuff from the Avada, the X-Theme, Visual Page Builder, Visual Bakery. But all of those things are like 8-cylinder cars in a world that we're going to be living in soon, where hopefully everything is an electric car. They'll still be on the road, but there won't be any conversation about new stuff, new features. Nobody's going to go buy one of those things. It's going to be Gutenberg. And then the other ones like Elementor and Divi will use the weight of their audience to carry on, but it's going to be a harder sell. Here's why.
Yeah.
As I'll show you here, WordPress is the Velcro. WordPress is the magnetic board onto which you throw or attach your dart or your magnets or your Velcro balls. If that thing already has built into it this amazing drag and drop capability for universal page builder designs components, there's no compelling reason for somebody to think about having to buy another layer on top of that to solve a problem, because the problem has gone away. The reason that the problem existed before was because you had a classic editor with a theme, with a plugin, and none of those worked together easily. Now with Gutenberg, that kind of goes away. The plugins have block capability, and we'll have more. The block editor is as easy to use or easier than classic. And so now people can just natively start to make stuff, albeit at the moment with some helper plugins that are free. So what I'm saying is, if you take your lumps today and start to use this, here's my vision of WordPress /launchflows /WP Launchify and so forth, is that we're very rapidly going to approach that turning point whereby, remember the days with all those different phones, there was an entire ecosystem of crap you had to buy to make those phones work with other phones or charge or connect or, a desktop thing. Now everybody just has like one format and one USB cable, and everybody is happier because now we focus on what they do. And in that way, when you get to the level of the block being in the editor, because it's functional enough, we can focus on, well, what did I really need this website to do anyway? Rather than talking about all of the guts inside of the engine compartment. That's kind of like a waste of energy if you really think about it, versus the what am I doing this for, that is really the compulsion of even having a website. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen because a lot of the things I want to refer to, I'll do them directly here. And today I'm going to do, what am I going to do here? I'm going to do this window. That way I can share and not lose it. Tell me if, let me add this to the stream. Oh, there we go. Is this clear enough, or should I move it?
It's not bad, actually. It's not
move,
crystal
really
clear, but it's not terrible.
All right. So here's the deal. When you're using Gutenberg today, it still has some issues. They have improved the interface, but one of the things that it doesn't do, and let's just call up a page, is it right now does not have native styling capability. And that, in my mind, is a problem. Now, I have a couple accessories added in here that I'm going to refer to and turn on in a second. But out of the box, you've got, again, your page, and then you've got whatever block may be dragged in. If I were to add a standard block, even like a paragraph, right, you would imagine that it would have style controls here, but it doesn't. Typically, at best, you have maybe some color controls, and maybe you have some other things like a drop case, but there's not a standard palette of controls over things like padding and border and background and so on and so forth.
Only minor things.
Right. And what's worse to my mind, because LaunchFlows uses short codes, is if I go in here and I type in short code and, let's say I'm putting in LF billing or something. Okay. The short code has nothing. There's literally no controls whatsoever. So each of the standard core blocks has various degrees of control. Now, don't get me wrong. When somebody makes a custom block, as I've been doing, you can actually add all the controls that you want. And that's one of the things that's very interesting. Like if I put in conditional section, this has like all these custom controls, which is kind of clever. But one of the things that Gutenberg really needs, and that's what we're going to fix here, is a standard way to style any block. And to do that, the thing that you want to install today, I already have it installed here, is called Editor Plus. There are other tools that may do similar, so I'm not trying to be exclusionary. But Editor Plus does a brilliant job, just let's refresh the page, of giving you those controls that you need to achieve this kind of outcome that is really powerful. And let's go back to square one. If I have a paragraph, look at now what I've got for controls. I've got a box for custom CSS, but look, I can control the font, the weight, the size, the line, the color, the background, the box shadow, the border radius, all the things even some animations. So why is this relevant? This means that by using this free plugin, I now have converted everything I need to style a block or a layout or save it as a pattern into something that is universal for me. In other words, I can either make an individual block and have it reusable, like this is a box with a border. I go ahead and I choose the item and then I go, border. I'm not going to turn this into a design thing. 7, I choose a color, maybe a pre-made color. I put some really cool padding in here so it's not choking to death on itself. And now what I've got is something that is immediately usable, whether it's got my short code in it or not. But here's the most important part. I can save and reuse this. So here's the output. When we go back and edit it, I can save this as a reusable block, which a reusable block is an odd name, but essentially it means that I can go ahead and use this. If I've placed it in 15, 20, 30 different spots in my website, I can edit the original and it will change all of them as one time.
This reminds me of the days of Dreamweaver, and they had, kind of that in a way. I know that it's really dating me now.
I mean, it's really this is what's interesting to me. If you look at how WordPress was originally they promised that in Appearance Customizer, we were going to have all this kind of universal control. And it did sort of turn out to be true. But here's where the problem kicked in. Then became the difference between, are you doing this at the level of the theme? Are you doing it at the level of the page builder? And then you had certain things like starter templates, which allowed you to have pre-made layouts, but they confused and blurred the lines between making the header and the footer in the page builder versus. So it's like by the time you figure it out,
which we can see a little bit in Astra, can't we?
Right. So like right now, just think about it this way. I am forced to go into like one area and then have to hunt and peck through all these variable drop downs to try to find a submenu to do something. Where doesn't it kind of make more sense that I'm in the actual post and I just simply choose or highlight the block or the entire, using this tool here, the navigator or whatever, list view, or I can just target anything in an entire group and apply the same scenario, right? Okay, so this is the number one thing, using Editor Plus. Next, now that you've got that, I want to emphasize that for most people, there's going to be a ton of accessories that you can pre-use without having to make anything. I talk about this with launch flows. Somebody said to me, what's the difference between launch flows and cart flows and WooFunnels? I said, the other two are frameworks, which require you to build a huge amount of pre-made stuff, whereas launch flows, it just works on a product or works on a page. Second of all is they've decided to make all their own custom templates for every page builder under the sun. And I'm saying, no, no, no. I'm doing what I'm preaching here and I'm following Gutenberg, because if I use this model, I could just make a checkout page, drop a short code in place, LF billing fields, and I can stylize that component, save it, share it, and more. I can mix it together with other things, whether it's from Extendify or Cadence or whatever. I can go grab patterns or individual blocks, or I can grab entire page templates that I can essentially mix and match with the blocks and the short codes all in front of my eyes, right where they're supposed to be. And by doing it this way, even if I have Divi or Elementor or some other crazy theme like Xtheme or Avada or even Oxygen, it doesn't matter. As long as the theme will output the content in the middle of the sandwich, right, between the theme's header and the footer, as long as the thing that I'm seeing on the screen will be output properly, anything I make here can be saved and shared and reused. So now think about it like this. If you were talking about your future as an implementer or as a service provider or as a business owner, just like with the phones, do you want to be the guy in 2021 or the woman who is using like one of those StarTAC phones from the 1980s or like a BlackBerry? You want to use the native editor that makes the content spit out. And that way, even if you do have some legacy client that has, weird headers and footers, it'll still work fine versus having to make each and every single client specific solution to the specific page builder. It would be madness. And let me give you another example here, just because this is so compelling. So there's things like the Gutenberg Hub. I've shown this before, but the Gutenberg Hub has a very nice set of blocks, templates, sections, and so forth, right? So if I go to the sections, these are particularly clever. Something I see here that's super sexy that I want to do, like a nice pricing table. All I got to do is go here, click a button, literally. I go here, or go here, add a thing. I click paste, and it goes in place. That's it. Like literally, let me do Control V. My screen is slow simply because it's recording. It will pop in, I promise. This always happens when I'm with you on there it is. It's the delay of the recording on the screen. But that was all there was to that. Like, it's a little squished because I got the thing open, but I don't need to make anything anymore, period. I literally can find hundreds of resources for blocks and templates and patterns and clever goodies that all
I think this is fantastic, and you're really, because fundamentally no, don't go down that road, Jonathan. But fundamentally, what you're showing is when this really does start to build, this will just blow away something like Squarespace or Wix. It just blows it away, really, doesn't it?
Well, just because of the control you have. Like, for example, right now, I'm just showing you that if you go this universal route, you currently, that's today, for free, have thousands upon thousands of pre-made components. Now, underneath this, the components that we teach to use with, like your discovery tool that could do e-commerce, marketing automation, sales funnels, LMS, whatever, they all work natively with these components, or they work via shortcodes, which is to say the design is now as simple as copy paste, but you're making one universal design. And then you're using components that we recommend are not the old-fashioned bespoke only to themselves kind, but instead are universal that work together for the mechanics. You've got a bulletproof system, because like this thing that you make for yourself or for your clients is reusable. I can save this entire setup as a pattern, or I could save this whole thing as a reusable thing, right? As a template even. And the thing that's so neat about that is it's the native thing in WordPress. It's not like, oh, gee, client, what is your current theme? Oh, you're on Divi. Damn it. I just spent a week making some beautiful solution for a client that was using Elementor, and now I can't use your thing or use it on your thing. Whereas if you make it here with Gutenberg, it's going to be working everywhere.
And the reason why I think it just blows away Squarespace or Wix is you have access to developers all over the world, people making stuff, hundreds of thousands of developers producing things that will work with Gutenberg. How can something like Squarespace or Wix compete with that? They can't, can they?
No, they can't. Well, yes and no. See, here's the thing that my argument goes at. WordPress right now as a platform is the most powerful of anything because it's open source and you can make whatever you want. Other platforms only allow you to customize through an API, like a REST API, or through hiring somebody who has access to the REST API, like a developer. So what's interesting here is that WordPress's biggest downfall is the thing that I could be actively involved in solving. WP Launchify's goal is as a discovery tool, along with the things I'm showing here now, to allow people who come to WordPress or who have been in WordPress to understand, hey gang, the picnic has finally turned into a proper affair. It's now a banquet where there's an actual menu of things you actually can know in advance are the right things to, I'll change the metaphor, use. And in that way, you don't have to come and figure out like, oh my God, like what am I supposed to do here between the hosting and the theme and the components and the membership part and the gateway and the transaction and too much. This allows a unified solution. So bringing it more down to earth, you're making a solution for yourself or your client. If you go the route of, again, starting with like WP Launchify and figuring out which components would match up with your use case, this gives you just, an easy way with a quick survey to understand, oh, there's only 5 or 6 things. Then when you make the actual layout, I'm highly encouraging you to use Gutenberg along with Editor Plus I'll show you a couple other trick plugins, because when you do it this way, you can always add another layer on top of it, right? You could always still use, like here, edit with Elementor. Okay, cool. I'll lose the stuff in Gutenberg, sort of, but now I can move into Elementor for this particular page, and I can mix and match between Elementor and something else. You'll notice what's interesting. This is weird, but like Elementor takes the markup from Gutenberg and it still tries to make it work out. Although you'll see that the styling gets lost because of course the CSS is not properly addressed, but the images and all the other stuff isn't lost. But the point I'm making is that there is a way for those two things to live together in the same space or even inside of the same layout. You just have to understand why you're doing it. Right now, Elementor's primary benefit is the complex dynamic content stuff. So right now, Gutenberg doesn't quite have the tool set to do the things we can do in Elementor. For example, conditional display of content based upon something that, the user's role or their status or a tag. That kind of stuff is very well handled by Elementor. And so for those pages, we'll sometimes use Elementor. But for the rest of the pure design stuff, I don't really find anything about Elementor has an advantage over Gutenberg at the moment. And because launch flows and some of the other plugins, work natively just as well with either Gutenberg or shortcodes, I say, why bother putting Elementor where you don't need it? So let me show you a couple other things. I'm going to go back here to the default WordPress editor, which, by the way, also, let's talk about speed. I got into a whole tiff with all of the Oxygen people.
Oh my God.
Who claim that Oxygen makes your website faster than native WordPress. And I said,
oh my God.
So what you're saying is 1 + 0 is well, it's like, I'm sorry, 1 + 1, which is native editor plus Oxygen, is a smaller number than 1 + 0, which is
they're not all. I'm gonna get some heat mail sent to me for this, but are they all Trump supporters?
I mean, I'm just simply saying that the best benefit of all is the speed, because you're literally outputting formatted HTML that's native here without another layer on top of it. Okay, so one of the things I want to show you, some specialty stuff. So there's a whole rash of plugins that are going to be coming out, and some of them are here that are adaptations of things that are tricky. One of the ones that I just did was for launch flows. I wanted to show people how you can immediately get a custom checkout layout with no design skills at all by mixing and matching some of the things I just showed you, like the aesthetics. Here's a sales grid, or here's a header with a call to action. When you mix those together with the short codes of launch flows, it's far easier when you look at a pattern. So I just made a simple pattern with launch flows that allows me to give you everything you need as the building blocks for a layout. But on the right-hand side, I was saying that this is a cool feature called sticky. So when you scroll your checkout page up, the review the order menu remains stuck on the right side, which is very similar to what happens in Shopify or Amazon.com, right? You have a long order, but the things with the details stay stuck on the right side. In order to make that happen, I could write custom code and put it in launch flows, but you know what? That would be silly because there's already a thing in Gutenberg. And this is an example of what other things Gutenberg brings to the table. Modular features. So here's a plugin called Sticky Block. When I make launch flows pattern, I simply let people know, please install this add-on, which is just a couple lines of code that gives you the capability in the page to make anything sticky. So if we go to my list view, you'll see here's the left column, here's the right column. Here's a sticky block. Inside of it is my launch flows review shortcode. When I click on the sticky block, there's a choice here. Change the style, do various things. But if I put on my editor here, if I click on the sticky block, I have sticky options. Here's a way I can adjust the space at the top or move the block down a little, or whether it should be, working on this size screen to that size screen, Z index. All of these controls are from a simple ready to use block that I can add anything into. So if I go here and I say I want to add another shortcode, I don't have to build anything, design anything. Just I'll put another thing in here. Maybe I'll move my LF, billing into here and get rid of it from here. And in doing it this way, what I'm trying to emphasize is don't remake stuff that already exists. Gutenberg's availability here inside of the page builder in a visual way makes it easy, even for a coder, let alone a regular person, to understand, oh, I get it. I just simply have a column that has a sticky section that somebody else figured out how to do. And then I'll put the short codes for my LMS or for my sales funnel or for whatever, or I'll put a paragraph in. And now I've got a component that, by the way, as a whole, I can save as a reusable block, or I can export it and give it to a client site and so forth. So the ability to stack blocks with special features wrapped around them is amazing. And then finally, this is kind of esoteric, but I was talking about it on your show today, that the Gutenberg blocks are very extensible, even for somebody with a limited amount of knowledge, as long as you're kind of up for playing around a little bit. And what I found interesting about that is that almost anybody will be able to make a custom block by using a simple tool or a simple accessory. For example, I wanted to make a pattern. There was a website that lets you build Gutenberg Patterns. Wow. Let's see if I can call it up from in this. Here it is. This Rich Tabor, I think, has it. Nope, that's not it. There's maybe it's this one. I'll call it up. There's a tool. Well, let me get it from another source. There's a tool that I was able to use where I just simply go ahead and I make up a series of blocks, and then I copy them, paste it into this tool, and the tool generates the output. Let me just real quick grab that because I think it'll be helpful. With no coding, somebody is able to essentially create a savable pattern. Here we go. Sorry for the delay there.
No, it's no problem. I think this is fantastic. I think it's fantastic what you're showing. It's just really.
So this is just something that's early days, but there will be tools like this, I guarantee you, in the block editor. So what happens is I can simply go, let's say, for example, I make up this combination of stuff here, right? I want to reuse this as a pattern. So let's say I go to this column, I've selected all the stuff. I can just simply copy it, and then I go over to this tool and I paste it in there. And now I've got a function. Okay. Now I can take this function. Again, it's not like super high level stuff, but I can put this into my functions PHP, or I can save it into my snippets plugin. And what it essentially will do will take all of the content that I just made and instantly make it into a pattern, which is really, really, really clever. I don't know if this is going to work for my demonstration. Let's try it. I'll just literally, hopefully I won't crash the site, but new sample pattern. I paste it in, and I can give it some new name, right? So I could say WP-Tonic, and I'll say WP-Tonic so I can recognize it. I didn't put it into the same category as my launch flows things and so forth, but the point is, if I were to just save this and run this, I made some error in calling it something, maybe because I have the same name. Let me change this. Well, I'm not going to bother because this is too much stuff. You'll have to trust me that this is how I actually was able to very quickly start learning how to do stuff, because there will be tools like this one that will give you the final output in the form of like a plugin, or in the form of a JSON code. And in doing so, you'll be able to, as an intermediary, build some really cool stuff and then save the whole thing. And then your clients or you will be able to see it when you come back to the site and want to add a new pattern. It'll show up right here.
That would be amazing. Do you mind me asking? I'm going to show you, because I really need to get myself up to speed on Gutenberg, which I plan to do. But what is the difference between blocks and patterns?
Yeah, some of the metaphors are weird. So a block is the same as a widget. It's the individual thing. So if you were to click here, there's a short code. Or if you go to a new line and you type, well, here the blocks are: paragraph, short code, columns, and so forth. If we go over here, you can see the universal library. And again, I think sometimes this interface confuses me because you have to be in a new column. But here's like blocks. Those are like widgets. They're individual outputs of things, a paragraph, a heading, a code snippet, something else. A pattern is a compilation of multiple blocks. So it is comparable to a section inside of Elementor. The section has columns and rows and widgets and so forth, but it's an entire, it could be one block as a pattern, to be honest. That would be just absurd. So a pattern. Let me say it a different way. Block, here's a block. It's one thing. Here's two blocks.
All right.
Here's three blocks. Right. Okay. If I save all of these together in the way that they're organized, that's a pattern.
And the blocks are widgets, kind of widgets.
If you were using Elementor as a comparison, a widget Elementor is a block in Gutenberg.
Right, yeah.
Exactly. And then you've got something else, which is the reusable blocks, which we talked about. That's like global widgets. So if in Elementor you had a global widget, that's the same as a reusable block. And then there's this other conversation that's esoteric, and I don't think it's working out so well. They're trying to figure out what to call like an entire page template. Like right now, if you go over here, see where it says full page templates, section patterns. So a pattern is like a section there. A full page template is like the entire layout, which is multiple sections all together. I understand the difference, because even in Elementor, we have sections and we have full layouts. But I think we just need to come up with like a unified way to call everything. This is a wheel. This is a steering wheel. This is, a hubcap. Because right now it seems that every page builder has a different term for the same thing. Yeah. But this is an example. I love this. This is so powerful. Here's an entire site with all the pieces I would need for an amazing homepage with call to action, everything. I copy this. I go to my page. Like, legitimately, how much harder, how much easier could this be? Let's delete all the junk. Okay. I legitimately go here and I simply paste that whole layout into this. It may take a second because it's grabbing the assets and I'm doing the video with you. Yeah. But now once this actually spits it into my thing, I've got all of the images, I've got all of the layouts, I've got all the markup, and it's all native HTML. It's a lot of stuff while I'm doing the video, so it's probably choking a little bit. But everything is there, and I really had done nothing other than copy and paste it. And there was one other plugin that I'll show you, is the starter pack, which is starter templates, which works well with the other Gutenberg themes, but also without. So there's the Cadence special starter templates, and then there's the generic one. In this
what would
case,
be, if you don't, I know you're really busy and you've been with us for most of the morning, but what would be great if you could list the most important plugins and paste them in the WP-Tonic Mastermind group.
Yeah, Sure.
So because people are going to ask me for these links, so
Absolutely.
if you can do that, that'd be great, Spencer.
Yeah, but like, let's just refresh this page because, again, with probably the memory of my computer and the connection speed, the other thing didn't paste. Let's refresh the page. Oh, it finally, it was in the process of spitting it out, but I just interrupted it. But let's refresh the page. So you'll notice because I put starter templates in, this is a sort of combination of other stuff. Here's whole pages. Here's patterns. Very brilliant stuff.
Wow.
And I mean, all free. This is free, for God's sake. It's free. Like, why does anybody need to design anything anymore ever? You just click import. It shows up in the page. And
well, you do need taste, though, don't you?
Well, the taste part, you're right. I mean, let's be honest. Nobody is going to solve the problem of taste.
That sounds so snobby, doesn't it? That sounds
well, it does,
so
but it
snobby,
doesn't.
But it is true, though, isn't it?
When I was a kid in the 70s, there was some clothes called Garanimals. And it was a joke, but it worked. They were clothing so that moms or dads could buy clothes for their kids. In those days, let's be honest, it was the moms, because the dads were, I don't know what. Now I'm a single dad, so I can appreciate it. For me, I would love Garanimals. When you buy the clothes, there would be a monkey or a hippo or a giraffe or whatever on each thing. And the kid could choose the shirt and the pants that had the same animal on them. It was brilliant. In fact, I think not even as a joke, they made them for adults. There's like literally...
Do you think I do that?
Yeah, there's personal shoppers who pick clothes and then put tags on it that say this shirt with these pants. And what I'm saying is the thing that's neat about Gutenberg is that it's native to WordPress and everybody can participate. And so there will be, and part of my business is sort of in the same vein, here's what you need to look good when you're going to the wedding. This is the tuxedo or the dress or whatever. And it's going to have these plugins with this layout, with this mechanics. And even if it's true that you want a different color scheme for your brand, or you change out the logo placeholder for your logo, how much easier is it when you buy a box from Launch Flows? It's got everything you need, including the recipe of like what you want to do. And all you do is put your own logo on it and it's done. And I know WP-Tonic provides services like that, but I'm further enhancing the idea of right now, you may have clients that have 50 different
I don't
conditions.
Think the way I see it is I made it quite clear, WP-Tonic, our flag is in the e-learning area, where I feel that your flag is marketing automation. So I don't see any problem, but that's how I rationalize it.
It's not, no, I'm not saying there's a problem between us. I'm saying you already are on board. You've been on board with this for some time. I'm saying the point of today's webinar is to say, I have drank the Kool-Aid, am driving towards the thing that I'm showing you today, which is it makes no sense for me as a business person, both as an implementer, a teacher, an author of a WordPress plugin, to continue to pretend that it's a good idea to make 6 different versions or 8 different versions of everything so that every page builder is happy. I'm essentially saying I'm abandoning the idea of pursuing any page builders anymore, except for very specific conditional things. One of our listeners, I don't know if it's Kurt or whoever, because I can't see.
Kurt, he's a regular. He's a great guy.
Yeah, it said like, conditional blocks. There are dynamic blocks right now, which
he rides the Zukis and Ducatis. I'm so jealous.
Right. So the cool thing is there's right now maybe a few. I was talking today from the authors of yesterday as well, dynamic content for Elementor. And although they don't have plans for porting it over, I'm sure that if they don't do it, somebody else will do something similar, which is full page builder tricks and so forth in native blocks and native systems. And at the end of the day, that's where I go back to what you're just asking about. What does this mean for everybody? The more that we unify as WordPress users and implementers around the notion that there's no barrier to anybody coming to the party, but when you come to the party, you can no longer make random unique stuff like a car driving the wrong way on the highway. You have to say there are rules of the road and we're all doing the same thing. And that to me is the most exciting part about all my political efforts or my educational efforts and so forth. It's that we've been talking about this and dreaming about this for 15 years. And I've been there from day one. And I finally see that like everything I've built and taught and educated people was hard, then it got easier. And then it was hard again, it got easier. And it always had this end result in mind. Couldn't we just have a block of Legos that came from the mothership that we all can work with? And I think this is the point of saying, you know what? Finally, if you get on board with this editor concept, you will not be missing that ship when it sails because you stayed too long with your particular page builder. You don't have to give it up, but just don't try to make new stuff in it.
Definitely, we have pinned our flag for a while with Alimator, but I am looking at that position very intently, because I agree with you that probably in the next few months that we are probably going to utilize Gutenberg as our native solution for our clients.
I mean, the thing is, I've said many times, and I stick by it, Elementor is a powerhouse. Divi, for its own purposes, designers, is a powerhouse. I don't recommend Divi for anybody for doing marketing automation sales funnels because issues with the interface and the slowness. But for pure designers, it's a tool that's very much beloved, and I can understand why. And Nick and his company have been around forever. They're not going away. But if you were going today for most often used solutions, a membership site, an LMS, an e-commerce site, whatever, it's like you don't need that much stuff that those tools bring. Most people just need the bare basics. And if I was to say to you, hey, here's a box of stuff, and I'm offering you my box of stuff from Launch Flows or whatever that's like ready to go with everything you need to know, like in a package that you can afford, and it saves you from buying all the plugins and setting everything up, and the design's unified. Why wouldn't you take it? I'm very respectful of your time, but I just got a quick, another 5 minutes, then we'll wrap it up. How does that sound? My only concern, I just want to see what your thought is. Obviously, something like Gutenberg, in a way, is never finished. But so you've got to keep that in mind. But there's really core fundamental change, and there's just the thing is set, and there's continuous improvement about UX design, about bugs, adding additional functionality. But the core things, and this is out of our control, out of yours and out of mine, but do you sense with what you've seen, do you think we're getting to the stage where the core parts of Gutenberg, they've been decided, they're set to a certain degree? I don't think so, because the notes that are out in the public, which is a nice part about even with its downfall of open source development, everybody's commentary is in the public view. The developers and the contributors are focused on doing what they think is best. I don't think that they always get it right the first time, because maybe they're an expert at coding and not necessarily at marketing. Like I love WooCommerce to death. It's the basis for most of what I make my living off today. But Mike Jolly and his team have a very definitive focus that is not really understanding the psychology of sales funnels. That's okay. Leaves more room for me. But the point is, when there's a debate, somebody who has the argument and can back it up with, here's a good reason why you should change the code. It's interesting that they're usually responsive to it, but they put it through their own developer filter. I see it as like, we must have it because blah, blah, blah for the sales result to happen. They see it like, oh, but there's all these back-end contingencies that will happen with regard to how we change this, that we want to not blow up the system. And so as somebody who codes a plugin, it helps me to be more understanding of the dichotomy of front-end use versus back-end development, and whether a feature is essential or it's not. And I think that in the long run, it's still open source software. So like we've seen, even for Elementor or Divi, there's a jillion add-ons for them. So even with all of their great innovative ideas, there's still room for other people. And I think that's the takeaway for everyone too. If you're an entrepreneur, and I continue to be, and I will be till I die, I'm sure, I get excited when something like a tornado comes in, because it tears out all the old stuff, shakes everybody up. They're all kind of like, woo, and now somebody gets to make new decisions on what to build. And I think this is what's happening now. WordPress itself has all of these forces pulling at it and tugging at it. And I don't know if it's like I'm going to succeed at this level or that, but I know I'm already succeeding with helping to educate people and open their minds about how to do things in a more lightweight way and a more universal way, because I was here from the day one that anybody could do like a building permit. There was a day when anybody could build any kind of structure you wanted in WordPress. And then all these shanty towns got built, and then eventually it grew into a city, and then it's a city made of shanties. And then the Chicago fire comes along and burns everything down, and now you have a chance to rebuild the city. Well, we can.
Yeah, let's get just because. But do you think like the blocks, the patterns, what you seem to be saying through this workshop, that they seem to be the metaphor and the way they work seems to be set. There still seems to be a debate about what a template or whatever you're going to call it is. That part still. The impression I was getting was that part is still really up in the air a bit.
And here's why. If you look at a traditional WordPress theme, like a custom bespoke theme, like a real estate theme, what happened is in the old days, using the template hierarchy, some developer would say, oh, I need a solution for a WordPress-based real estate business. They knew certain types of pages had to exist. There's the display of the real estate page, the sales page, the about page, the contact, the MLS page. And they built a lot of custom pages, all of it hard-coded. So the metaphor is, at what point do we take the per page design capability, either blocks, patterns, sections, or a whole page? Do we extend that into assembling multiple page layouts into one theme, one package called a whole site theme? Is that even necessary? And I'm sort of in my mind arguing maybe not, because as I've seen in Elementor, it confuses the hell out of people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing to show a display like Gutenberg does, where here or starter templates, here's a home page, here's a sales page. You can pick the page, copy that individually, and put it on your page. That's easy to keep track of. But when you import all of those pages, and now you've got 5 pages suddenly, and you don't know why you have them, then people start to get confused. And I think that it would be simpler if we stopped at the level of what you see on the page is all you get. And if you want to build a bigger solution, cool. Give somebody access to a thing where they can.
Like most things, I see where you're coming, but I actually do see benefit of a kind of theme and pages. But then, like you have blocks, patterns, templates, and themes.
It'd be like block theme, yeah. Theme would be the word for it.
But you are right. If you take it too far, it becomes very confusing.
I mean, the naming could be simple, because if you look at it like Elementor, right? It's widgets, rows, columns, sections. Then you've got page templates. Then you've got specific types of page templates. Then you've got themes. And the place
it's a little bit too much, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. Like, people lose their mind as soon as you go outside of the one thing I'm looking at. Now people.
Well, what I'm saying is kind of a bit of a hybrid of what you've just said. I'm just saying I totally agree with your example, right? But I think you need some, but only up to 4. If you start going, even having headers and footers, it all gets very confusing, doesn't it?
Right. We didn't even talk about that, right? Header and footer. So if you're in Gutenberg block editor, you can have the theme, the real theme, doing header and footer, and then it's just the content area that's doing all the layout in the middle. How do you reconcile those two together? Because if you have a whole site theme, now you've escaped from just doing what I see on the screen to like, wait, I got to choose between this and that. Here, if you went with the simpler route and we stopped at just the page, here's how simple it could be. Whatever you used for, if at all, for the underlying header and footer, doesn't matter, or even on the per page basis, because you could simply just look at it like a sandwich. You go to a page or a post and you go, what's the header? What's the footer? What's the content? And just choose it. And that's it. Save it and you're
I
done.
think we're really at the same place, because maybe what the future of a theme really is going to be a global style sheet and a footer and a header, and you have this global, but what you actually put in the middle is, you can whatever you want to put in the middle of the sandwich.
But I'm saying universally, we're not really talking about this, but I'm saying universally, if you went to a post or a page or a custom post type editor screen, it would be so simple just to be like, here's the top is the header, the bottom is the footer, in the middle. You could have a drop down that shows what do you want to use in the header? Is it the default theme? Same in the footer. Or is it custom here on this page? In the middle, you pick the content. Is it Gutenberg? Is it Elementor? Is it like,
Yeah.
So in other words, sticking to the metaphor of making each thing as you go, let somebody focus on, I know exactly what I'm going to get with this particular page. Whereas like in Elementor right now, you can go into the theme builder and you can make a template that's not attached to anything, and then say, use this template on all, product pages. Next thing you know, all product pages look different, which is great, except if you didn't expect that. Now you got to figure out how to overcome that. And you got to understand to go back into the page builder's theme section instead of just right on the screen modifying it. And that's not user-friendly as it could be, or as user-friendly as it could be.
Well, I think we wrap it up. I
Yeah.
think it's been a great workshop. I'm pushing this to the WP-Tonic Mastermind Facebook and YouTube. If you are watching this on YouTube, you really want to watch it on our Mastermind Facebook group, because Spencer is part of that. And if you've got any specific questions and you're a member, you can ask Spencer directly any questions about what he's shown us or any of his products. Launch Flows is a sponsor of the show. It's a tremendous product.
Oh, by the way, I want to mention too. Maybe I took the words out of my mouth, but I want to add something to it. You would ask me if I could give a special deal on Lunch Flows to WP-Tonic listeners, which I have.
I've got it on the newsletter page.
And many people start. So it's a lifetime deal. Normally it's $300. That's lifetime with 2 years of upgrades. 2 years of.
It's a great
support,
offer.
But through WP-Tonic, it's a third off. Basically, it's $199 for a lifetime. So the reason that's relevant to the conversation today is I'm very close to going back to, and you're hearing it here first, we've been getting so many requests from people with launch flows. Like, look, there's a jillion WooCommerce accessories and all these other things that I need specifically. Can you expand like the package of what I get? So I'm going to be announcing shortly that in addition to this great deal, there'll be something else in addition, not as part of it, where you can get launch flows ready to go with all the stuff that you need, like your WooCommerce and your accessories. And it's not like all the rest of the site per se, but it's like for somebody who's, look, I for myself or client needs something in this box, like when you get those meals that come in a Amazon package. And I think that's relevant because for many people, they get overwhelmed with all the tchotchkes that they got to acquire for the little nuanced setup things. And I showed you a few tricks today, but like these will be in the box and some other things with WooCommerce. And I think that's the direction that everybody is going anyway, which is find a solution that has everything you need all in one. And then there's less things to go wrong or less things for you to have to figure out.
That sounds great. But Spencer, like I say, has been enormously generous with the special offer to the tribe. It's amazing value. You'll find that on the WP-Tonic website. All you have to do is go to WP-Tonic /newsletter, and you'll also be able to sign up for our weekly newsletter. But on that page is Spencer's special offer, and it's just fantastic. And I'm so appreciative that you agreed to do that. Spencer has been enormously supportive of the WP-Tonic show and the tribe, as I call it. I see you as all part of my tribe. You've been with me, a lot of you, for donkey's years, putting up with my rants and my
15 years. I've suffered through this relationship.
Well, yeah,
I'm kidding.
It's only been the past couple of years that you really got to know
I'm
me
teasing you. Jonathan, we go way back. I met you back in...
You're going to date me now, aren't you?
2007, 2008, the early days.
Yeah, 8, 9. I think I had some consultation with you, didn't I? Right, I think it's time to wrap it up. Like I say, join the tribe at the WP-Tonic Mastermind if you're watching this on YouTube. It's got loads of resources, loads of content, and also sign up for our newsletter because we're going to have regular specials, people that come on the show. A lot of them have plugins, and there'll be regular specials where you won't find anywhere else. So please join us. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.